Going to get started. We got a little sidetracked during a voting session here. We're back on track to hear bills, and we're going to start with Chair Mark Corman on House Bill 870. Chair Corman, why don't you come on up here? And you are the lone witness on this piece of legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I enjoyed the preview of our conference committee. That was enjoyable to watch. House Bill 870 is the Large Buildings for Tomorrow Act. As amended, this bill is really sort of a notification to the state about buildings that will have to comply with the Building Energy Performance Standards. Love them or hate them, Building Energy Performance Standards, or BEPS, are the current law. They are a current requirement that is going to come online. And so the idea of this bill is that the Maryland Department of Environment will be able to interact with the person building the building that will have to qualify and make sure that they are sort of on the right track and at least know what is going to apply to them and maybe help guide them to making the investment up front the right way. Ultimately, that's up to the owner how they want to do it. We know it is more cost effective to build in compliance from the start than to retrofit later. You and I know that, Mr. Chairman. We've been hearing from buildings in Montgomery County about the challenges of retrofitting. And so we want to make sure that buildings that are being built today are being built to comply with our standards. That's the point of the bill. It's just a notification to the state when a qualifying building is being constructed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Any questions for Chair Corman on House Bill 870? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 870. And let's see, what else do we have? Do you have another?
House Bill 1623, Mr. Chair.
Okay, my apologies.
It's a Montgomery County local bill that I'm presenting on behalf of the delegation.
Gotcha.
Sorry about that.
1623?
Yes. Okay, maybe I'm in the wrong committee. It's possible. I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I don't have any 1620.
Right. So I'm good. You got all my bills covered?
We're good?
I'm good?
Okay.
All right.
We have 1252. You're not here on
Not
that.
me.
Okay.
The NT. Okay, all right, I'm going to go down the hall. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, that's, yeah, upstairs. Okay, I've got Delegate Morgan, as people came in, Lamoria was taking note of the order, and Delegate Morgan on Senate Bill, I want to say 613. And we've got, is Matt Stegman here? Okay, Ms. Stegman, why don't you come up and join Delegate Morgan on House Bill 613. You can proceed. Take the time you need.
Thank you. Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, the members of the committee. Today I bring from Delegate Todd B. Morgan, not the other one, and I bring forth House Bill number 613. The bill, as now amended, is a statewide bill. It's had numerous reviews to gain stakeholder, advocate, DNR, and NDE input and support. I'm going to be very clear from the outset. I'm not against living shorelines. They're an important environmental tool. In the Living Shoreline Protection Act of 2000, it established them as the statewide preferred method of erosion control where feasible. Well, what I and many of my constituents take issue with is the process. Too often it feels top-down. Exceptions are difficult to obtain, reviews can take a long time, and property owners spend significant money with no certainty of outcomes, all the while their shoreline continues to erode. The issue has been developing for several years. A few sessions ago, a similar bill came before the EEE Committee, and we had a very spirited, productive discussion in subcommittee and ultimately decided to work on it rather than force the issue at hand. Since then, the EEE has tried to commit better to understand the full picture through interim site visits. So this session, I decided I was going to introduce bills that had relevance to our site visits every season. So in this particular case, we've been to Calverquist Nuclear Power Plant, Point Lookout State Park, and Poplar Island. When you stand on those shorelines and see the conditions firsthand, it reinforces something very important. Maryland's coastline is not one size fits all. Under current law, property owners must generally use non-structural shoreline stabilization measures. There are two exceptions, where the Maryland Department of the Environment has mapped an area as appropriate for structural measures, or where an applicant can demonstrate that non-structural methods are not feasible. The challenge is much of our shoreline is mapped undetermined. Additionally, securing a waiver can take considerable time and expense, and there is no guarantee of approval. Meanwhile, erosion continues, often an accelerated pace of energy of the water we face. When a waiver is denied, property owners and marine contractors have been told that what have not been told the basis of the denial. At times, the process and decisions have seemed arbitrary. This is unfair to everyone involved in the process and gives the appearance of unfair practices. We constantly hear from marine contractors that some property owners simply decide the process is not workable and they walk away. When this happens, the shoreline is left unprotected. We lose more of it each year. House Bill 613 has been significantly amended and now reflects a much broader statewide approach. No longer the Calvert and St. Mary bill. The bill applies to Maryland and establishes a more transparent and collaborative framework for shoreline management decisions. As amended, the bill redefines the living shoreline and clarifies the associated attributes, ensuring a more consistent understanding of what qualifies under the designation. The role of the Soil Conservation District has also been updated. While they are now advisory in nature, they are required to be consulted at the initial request of a waiver and will provide recommendations to the Maryland Department of the Environment. This ensures local expertise remains part of the decision-making process. Importantly, the bill requires MDE to develop, in collaboration with the stakeholders, a scoring system for evaluating projects. The system must be made publicly available on MDE's website, bring greater transparency and consistency to the evaluation process. Additionally, MDE is required to engage stakeholders in a series of discussions addressing key challenges, including wave energy environments, existing time of year restrictions, and mitigation requirements. The department must report back to the Environment and Transportation Committee and your committee by December 1st, 2026 on the progress of these efforts. Overall, the amended bill strengthens transparency, expands stakeholder involvement, ensures that both local insight and scientific considerations are incorporated into shoreline management decisions statewide. I'm proud to say this is the first bill to receive a letter of support from the newly created House of Delegates Maryland Rural Caucus, reflecting an understanding that rural communities experience these difficult challenges. There are additional amendments that you'll see, and these were previously agreed to with CBF. However, they were left off the last amendment request, so the committee has done this to honor our agreement. For these reasons, I respectfully ask for a favorable report on House Bill 613, and thank you for your considerations.
Okay, Mrs. Stegman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Matt Stegman from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. When the cross-file for this bill was heard in this committee, we were here in very, very strong opposition. I want to give credit to Delegate Morgan and Senator Bailey for hearing us out and working through our concerns. So we're comfortable with the bill in the form that it is now. As Delegate Morgan mentioned, there's a couple little things that were supposed to be added to the House bill that just kind of got lost in the shuffle, getting things over before crossover. So we'd ask you to please add those additional amendments, and with that, ask a favorable report.
Okay. Any questions for Delegate Morgan or Mrs. Stegman? Okay, seeing none, that concludes billing on House Bill 613. Let's next go to Delegate Linda Foley from District 15. On House Bill 1164 is Laura Runkle here. Okay, why don't you come up to join Delegate Foley? Again, House Bill 1164, Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's good to see you as our District 15 Senator chairing this meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair Kagan and members of the EEE Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Linda Foley, and I'm presenting HB 1164. Water companies, sewage disposal companies, and water and sewage disposal companies' limited income mechanisms. HB 1164 passed the House on a bipartisan vote of 127-6. So, in 2021, the legislature directed the Public Service Commission to adopt limited income assistance mechanisms for electric and gas utilities. Today, I'm asking you to bring the same relief, or to take steps to bring the same relief, to Marylanders struggling with rising costs of water and sewer. HB 1164 directs the PSC to explore ways to implement a similar program for ratepayers of private water utilities. For low-income households, rising utility costs can cause particular financial distress and crisis, as you know. And in the U.S., for example, monthly water and sewer bills represent a disproportionate financial burden for low-income households, as high as 40% of total earnings for those at 75% of the poverty level. I was pretty surprised to learn that myself. We see this crisis right here in Maryland very acutely in Western Maryland, specifically in 4 communities: Glen Oaks, Bel Air, Pinto, Highlandtown, and Highlandtown Estates communities. Ratepayers in those communities are paying exorbitant prices for their water. For example, one customer with an unusual water bill was charged nearly $300 for about 4,300 gallons of water. used. Comparatively, in other parts of Maryland, 4,000 gallons would cost anywhere from $45 to $100. So in some cases, more than 3 times as much. HB 1164 officially requires the PSC to investigate whether private water companies can create assistance programs for low-income households. It outlines clear conditions for limited mechanisms and defines the PSC's role in determining when these programs are appropriate. This bill mandates a PSC study to evaluate the feasibility of requiring these mechanisms across all water and sewage companies under the PSC's jurisdiction. The report to the governor, specified in the bill, due in December 2026, will provide a roadmap for long-term affordability for financing and assessing the program. I also asked this committee to adopt some technical amendments that edit a drafting error, and those amendments have been submitted to this committee, and my understanding is that the EEE Committee Council has those technical amendments. HB 1164 could help make water and sewer utilities more affordable for Marylanders, so I ask you for a favorable report with the amendments I just described. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Ms. Runkle next, again on House Bill 1164, signed up favorable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Laura Runkle. I'm president of Maryland American Water. We serve about 25,000 people in the state of Maryland with water and soon-to-be wastewater service. We support this bill, and we strongly urge support as it will benefit our customers by allowing needed relief for our lowest income customers. We know that this is just one way that we are seeking to tackle the affordability challenge in the state of Maryland. Also, when the cross-file of this bill was heard in this committee, there was a component around rate consolidation, which is no longer in this bill, but we look forward to those continued discussions with the Public Service Commission and the General Assembly about rate consolidation as another tool in the toolbox for water utilities to achieve affordability for customers.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Delegate Foley's sponsor or her witness, Laura Runkle? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 1164.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to go to Delegate Vogel, House Bill 168, District 17. I've got signed up favorable. I'm going to just, do you mind? I got 3 witnesses signed up favorable.
Please.
Bring up Paul Lemley, Christine Crone, and Terry Kavanaugh. Just want you all come on up. On House Bill 168, Delegate Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, the Senator from Gaithersburg and Rockville, and committee. It's great to be here with House Bill 168 alongside this fantastic panel. Across our state, we are still struggling with an educator shortage. And one challenge facing our educators is that it's just too expensive for them to afford to live in the communities where they're teaching. One solution for this is educator workforce housing. We've seen successful models of educator housing already in the state of Maryland, specifically in Baltimore, and a number of examples across the country as well. This legislation, as amended, has 3 different mechanisms to incentivize the construction of educator workforce housing in Maryland. First, it designates educator workforce housing as a school purpose, allowing LEAs to retain ownership and property tax exemption for these specific housing projects. Second, it expands eligibility for funding from the Housing Innovation Pilot Program to include educator workforce housing projects. And third, it allows donations to educator workforce housing projects to be considered under the Neighborhood and Community Assistance Program. I will note a letter of support from the city of Rockville. As the senators may know, there are a number of sites in Rockville that are formerly warehouses that MCPS owns. The city of Rockville is engaged with MCPS, and we've been in active discussions about the future of those sites and potentially including educator workforce housing on one of those sites. This bill would make it easier for the municipality and for the school system to do that. You will also see what initially was a letter of information from the Department of Housing and Community Development with a number of concerns. We worked very closely with them over in the House to address their concerns through amendments and I don't want to speak for them, but I think they are now comfortable with the bill as it stands. With that, I urge a favorable report on House Bill 168.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lemley?
Good afternoon, Chair Feldman, members of the committee. My name is Paul Lemley, president of the Maryland State Education Association, representing 76,000 educators and school employees across Maryland. We strongly support House Bill 168. Across the state, rising housing costs are pushing educators further from the communities they serve or out of the profession entirely. This directly impacts recruitment, retention, and ultimately the stability of our schools. I'll add that when I was a local president in Howard, fully 20% of our members lived in Carroll County, just across a line because they could not afford Howard. House Bill 168 offers a practical, responsible solution. It builds on existing state housing programs such as the Housing Innovation Fund and related initiatives by expanding their use to support educator workforce housing. It does so without incurring new state costs, without requiring new spending, instead leveraging existing resources more effectively. Bill also takes a critical step by formally recognizing educator workforce housing in state policy. That means prioritizing housing for teachers and school employees as part of Maryland's broader response to the housing crisis. Equally important, House Bill 168 allows local school systems to use available land or facilities for workforce housing instead of declaring them surplus. This creates new opportunities to turn underutilized public assets into real solutions for educators in high-cost areas. Finally, the bill removes barriers by expanding eligibility and encouraging partnerships between school systems, municipalities, and housing programs, making it easier to develop innovative local solutions. This aligns with our commitment to fair housing and ensuring every educator has the opportunity to live in the community that they serve. This is a smart, cost-effective step forward. And I said there were 1,000 Howard educators who lived in Carroll. There were only 2 who did the reverse. We respectfully urge a favorable report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Crum.
Good afternoon, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, and members of the committee. I'm Christine Crone here on behalf of the Mayor and Council of Rockville. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 168. We also like to thank Delegate Vogel for sponsoring this important legislation. The Mayor and Council unanimously supports House Bill 168 because it aligns directly with Rockville's commitment to expanding workforce housing, particularly for teachers and school system employees. As Delegate Vogel mentioned, we have been actively working to identify solutions to ensure educators can afford to live in the communities where they work. Maryland is currently facing nearly 1,000 teacher vacancies. A significant challenge is that many educators are priced out of living in the communities where they work. This contributes to higher turnover, longer commutes that reduce retention, and increased difficulty in recruiting early career teachers. The impact on students is significant. Research shows that high teacher turnover disrupts learning, lowers academic achievement, and reduces continuity in instruction. House Bill 168 offers a practical solution. It strengthens the state's ability to finance educator workforce housing by making these projects eligible across multiple housing programs. It expands eligibility to include municipalities and boards of education, unlocks public land for development, and enables more flexible and innovative financing tools beyond traditional models. For Rockville, this creates meaningful opportunities to partner and develop housing in a central transit-oriented location, helping move projects from concept to construction. In closing, House Bill 168 is a pragmatic workforce housing bill that aligns housing policy with workforce needs. We urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kavanaugh?
Good afternoon, Chairman Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan. Happy to be here. Terry Kavanaugh on behalf of SEIU Local 500. Strongly in support of the bill. SEIU Local 500 represents more than 20,000 education workers, including educational support professionals in Montgomery County Public Schools. Our members are the backbone of Maryland's public education system, yet far too many of them, alongside teachers, are being priced out of the very communities they serve. The rising cost of housing is not just a personal burden, but is a growing workforce problem that directly impacts students' success, school stability, and the ability of districts to recruit and retain qualified staff. HB 168 is a smart, targeted solution to this growing problem. Legislation recognizes educator workforce housing as an eligible use of state housing resources and explicitly includes school employees as priority population for affordable housing development. By doing so, the bill takes an important step forward, aligning Maryland's housing policy with the real needs of its public workforce. Local 500 members, this matters deeply. Many of our members earn modest wages, performing essential roles in schools. They are increasingly forced into long commutes, unstable housing situations, or leaving the professions entirely. Chronic vacancies among support staff, especially bus drivers, paraprofessionals, and building service workers, are exacerbated by the lack of affordable housing near schools. Students suffer when experienced, trusted adults are pushed out of their communities. I won't repeat what others have already said, but we urge a favorable report for House Bill 168. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Delegate Vogel or the panel? Senator Washington?
Thank you, and thank you for trying to take up this issue, but I just have some questions. So there's currently a Housing Innovation Fund, right? We currently have that. And can you explain or describe a little more about, I guess it's on page 6 of the bill, where you're adding municipal corporations and county boards of education? Are they, can you tell us what that section does? You mentioned it a little bit in your introductory remarks, but I'd like to hear a little more about it.
Thank you, Senator. So one of the mechanisms by which we'd be looking to incentivize educator workforce housing is to expand the criteria of eligible the eligible projects that could receive HIPP funding, now we're including educator workforce housing in that, and the recipients of those funds could now include municipal corporations and boards of education that are working on those projects.
Mm-hmm. And what's a municipal corporation? Just
A city.
Okay. So it's not any, it's not, it would just be local government, a local municipality.
Exactly.
And is the idea that local municipalities would own and operate these?
I think it's just allowing for, in the case of the city of Rockville, for example, which is one of many examples of where these projects could be developed. In that case, we could envision the city and the school system working in partnership in developing these housing project specifically for educators. Every different model across the state could look different, but we want to allow for some flexibility if municipal corporations, if cities are going to be involved in the development of these projects, for them to be eligible for receiving the funds.
And on page, thank you, on page 8, no, it's on page 9, item 2, you strike, or is that did you fix that? Is that a correction? It looked like it originally struck affordable, but now it's still there.
So the main changes that were made through amendments, this might be part of it, is we did not end up touching the Light Tech program. That gets a little more complicated around affordable housing, and we didn't want to mess with that.
Okay, all righty.
Thank you.
That's good for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, Vice Chair Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delegate Vogel, thank you for your leadership. Very exciting concept. My question for you is about, this is going to be limited access. And so I just did, because Mr. Lemley cited Howard County numbers, I just did a quick look at starting salaries in Howard County for teachers and for principals. And the language as it came over from the House talks about, or any other, educators or any others. So a teacher in Howard County starts at $66,000 to $69,000 a year, a lot more than legislators make. And a principal starts in elementary school at $105,000 and high school $122,000 a year. I wonder what your thinking is about excluding a principal who might not be able to be seen as limited income in the same way that our beginning teachers are. Have you thought about narrowing the scope of who might be eligible?
Thank you, Senator. And the reason that it expands beyond just teachers, I'm looking here at page 4,
Yeah.
teachers or other employees of a local
That's where I
school
was.
system.
Yes.
That's to include, as was mentioned earlier, education support professionals, our ESPs, that make even less than our classroom teachers that really need this housing. So in terms of who ends up eligible in the end, you know, I'm happy to have that conversation further, but we definitely want to make sure that ESPs are included.
Okay, additional questions? Okay, Senator Washington.
I was looking for school purposes. Are school purposes defined elsewhere in charter, in our code? Because I'm just wondering.
Are you looking at how we expand the definition of what?
Yeah, so on page 2, and so this would be in the beginning of I guess you're revising the educational article about school purposes, and I apologize for not having that existing definition in front of me.
I can get back to you, Senator, with an answer of
thank you.
where else school purposes is defined. What we're doing here is making, again, educator housing as an eligible use of school property or school land.
So this is, okay, so this is adaptive, so, okay, so that's different. So this is about the adaptive reuse of school property as, well, like as workforce housing?
I'll give you an example. We have warehouses that are now no longer in use.
Right.
If that is still school land and the warehouses were for school purpose, if we build housing there, we want them to still be able to maintain that school purpose, right? And that impacts their taxing, that impacts their administration. And
I get it.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 168. Thank you all. Okay, Delegate Long. Delegate Long here. House Bill 1196. Jeffrey, why don't you sit down? We've got 2 witnesses. One witness signed up here, Frederick Lendon Tutman from the Patuxent Riverkeeper. Patuxent, is he here? Is Frederick Lendon Tutman here? Okay.
I don't see him, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Delegate Long, then the floor is yours. You're the lone witness on House Bill 1196.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the EEE Committee. For the record, I am Delegate Jeffrey E. Long, Jr., and thank you for the opportunity to present House Bill 1196, Environment Mobile Home Parks Water Quality Testing Secondary Maximum Contaminant Levels Action Plan, the cross-file to Senate Bill 940. This legislation is updated and amended, and the amended version created through collaboration between MDE and affected residents and environmental advocates. This new version has a much more neutral fiscal impact. And I must note that it's passed the House unanimously. Your vote is needed as this bill addresses a serious problem to public health. The MDE does not currently have the full authority it needs to ensure safe, clean drinking water for certain Maryland residents. Previous testimony provided you with examples from mobile home residents scattered throughout Maryland dealing with unsafe drinking water due to the lack of enforcement power held by MDE. In Maryland's mobile home parks, drinking water primarily comes from wells and groundwater systems owned and operated by private community owners. These small systems often have long-standing issues. Residents who pay separate fees for water have had their water service disrupted and have received discolored, foul-smelling water for years. Many have experienced health problems consequently as a result. To understand the issue, it helps to know how drinking water laws work. The U.S. EPA sets national rules for keeping drinking water safe for homes, businesses, and communities. States, including Maryland, are then given the authority to enforce these rules through the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act. Almost every state and U.S. territory and the Navajo Nation has what's called primacy, meaning they are responsible for enforcing these federal drinking water rules. These rules include both health-related standards and aesthetic concerns, which may include taste, color, and odor. Furthermore, there is a category of standards called National Secondary Drinking Water Regulations. These deal with things like smell, appearance, and taste. The EPA sets guidelines for these issues. However, they are not enforceable at the federal level. States can choose to make them enforceable, but Maryland has not done so, at least not yet. That is a problem that HB 1196 aims to fix. Maryland needs to join the nearly 20 other states that have already enforce these secondary regulations so the MDE can address serious water quality issues, especially in small communities where these problems are most common. This bill will begin the process of giving MDE the authority it needs, requires the state to create an action plan that includes a review of how other states enforce secondary drinking water standards. Number 2, identification of Maryland communities with severe taste, odor, or discoloration problems so they can receive priority testing. And lastly, a decision-making guide showing the benefits and challenges of fully adopting these standards in the future. HB 1196 is intentional and rooted in environmental justice. And so on behalf of all the residents that have reached out to my office and to the good delegate from District 30, Delegate Howard, who's my number 2 co-sponsor on this, and the senator that sponsors, Senator Henson, I ask for a favorable report for House Bill 1196. Thank you.
Okay, questions for Delegate Long? Okay, seeing none, that concludes billing on House Bill 1196.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're going to go to House Bill 1267, Delegate Lehman. And again, we're taking folks as the order they came in as best we can figure out.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Can I call up my panel, please?
Sure. I've got on the list here Michael Wilpers, Frederick Linden Tutman, Gary Allen, and Judy Fulton. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, do you want to call?
Okay, Delegate Lehman, we're on House Bill 1267. You can start.
I do think I have one virtual witness, I believe. Do you have that person? Richard Dolesh?
Okay, is this gentleman the person you're thinking about?
Yes, I think so, yes. May I start, Mr. Chair?
Okay, let's, I think that may not be the right bill. Okay, Delegate Lehman, let's just go with the panel we have in front of us, and if somebody pops in the queue, we'll.
Thank you. Thank you and good afternoon, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, esteemed members of EEE. It's great to be back before you today. For the record, I'm Delegate Mary Lehman. I am seeking a favorable report on House Bill 1267. This is legislation to protect nearly 20,000 acres of federal land in Prince George's and Anne Arundel counties. The bill would safeguard the zoning of 2 large federal properties, one owned by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the other owned by the U.S. Department of the Interior. This is contingency legislation that says if the federal government decides to sell or lease these properties, the bill would preserve the zoning in the 2 counties as open space or reserve open space, and would not permit commercial, industrial, or residential uses on either property. So by way of background, the Patuxent Research Refuge was founded in 1936, and it encompasses almost 13,000 acres of land in Anne Arundel and Prince George's counties. The property is home to more than 1,250 species, including 230 in need of protection. It is the only refuge in the United States that was established specifically for wildlife research, which is essential work that ensures environmental sustainability. The refuge conducted groundbreaking research on the impact of the pesticide DDT on the thickness of eggshells and hatch rates for bald eagles living in the area. The biologist, author, and conservationist Rachel Carson based her 1962 landmark book, Silent Spring, largely off of these findings. Her work was routinely criticized by chemical companies, but it led to a nationwide ban on DDT, and it spurred creation of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. This is the largest parcel of undeveloped forest, meadow, and wetland habitat between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. It needs to maintain that status. As a so-called green lung between these 2 cities, its ecological functions such as carbon sequestration, stormwater drainage, heat island mitigation, and climate resilience resilience are irreplaceable. Patuxent also includes acreage formerly part of Fort Meade Army Base, which was a testing grounds for munitions used in World War I. That parcel is actually off limits to the public, and it would be risky to develop. The Henry A. Wallace Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, established in 1910, is a 6,500-acre property in Prince George's County where federal scientists conduct crop research, plant and animal disease and genetic studies, food quality and safety testing, and research on the health and the long-term viability of the honeybee. Bark has been at the forefront of research that has led to hardier backyard grass, new varieties of mosquito repellent, and perhaps most famously, the butterball turkey. The property is at risk because just last year, the Trump administration publicly shared its goal to close the facility and move those researchers to other USDA facilities across the country. In a time where the future of many federal facilities and public lands in general is unknown, it is essential that Maryland proactively protect these properties. House amendments clarify the terminology of the local zoning authority in both Anne Arundel County and the add restrictions on development of what are called central natural areas of both properties, and then if the properties are leased or sold and development is proposed, another House amendment added consultation requirements with the Maryland Departments of Natural Resources and the Environment. I respectfully ask the committee for a favorable report on House Bill 1267 to safeguard these unique and consequential environmental properties for the future, and I thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a sequence of, you want to go, who do you want next? You pick. Okay, sir, tell us your name. Sure. And you're going to be, each of you going to be on the up to 2 minute clock.
My name is Gary Allen. I'm the former mayor of Bowie, Maryland, and a frequent visitor to both Patuxent and one who's actually gone through much of Beltsville Agricultural Research Service and visited those properties many times over the last several decades that I've been active in the community. This area is often looked at as the green lungs of the nation's capital. Together, these properties represent one of the core areas of more than 100,000 acres taken up by 17 different state, federal, and local agencies that occupy a central green hub in this area. They are essential to our resilience planning in this area. I call to your attention the many local organizations that have offered support and encouragement for this bill, and we want to thank Delegate Lehman for bringing it forward. This is a precautionary bill, one that's contingent upon bad decisions, we think, at the federal level, but one which would give us some protection and confidence that these environmental features and their values could be protected for the future generations in our area to maintain the quality of life of our citizens. Thank you very much. We ask for a strong, favorable report.
Okay, thank you. Sir, why don't you go next? Again, you'll be on the up to 2 minute clock.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Michael Wilpers with the Maryland chapter of the Sierra Club, testifying in support of HB 1267. The bill puts crucial guardrails in place to protect two of the most valuable natural areas in Maryland, which you've heard a little bit about already. Of the two, bark faces the most immediate danger. The U.S. Secretary of Agriculture issued a plan to reorganize the entire USDA in which bark would be, quote, vacated. Meanwhile, staff at the Patuxent Refuge face the possibility of mass layoffs, casting serious doubt on the Department of Interior's commitment to retaining the refuge. In addition to its agricultural research, bark's 6,000 acres contain large natural areas that support over 230 species of birds, putting bark in second place among the 100 top birding hotspots in Prince George's County, second only to the Patuxent Reserve. Bark's extensive grasslands support birds that breed only in that habitat, such as meadowlark, American pipit, and American kestrel, all of which are declining in numbers elsewhere in Maryland. Patuxent Refuge is twice as large as bark, encompassing about 12,000 acres that support an astonishing abundance of wildlife, including 55 species just of dragonflies, 243 species of birds, and at least 200 species of pollinating bees and butterflies. The refuge also offers very popular public amenities with 23 miles of hiking trails and opportunities for fishing and hunting. Every year, more than 200,000 people visit the refuge, and thousands of them come to fish and hunt. HB 1267 puts strong restrictions to protect these exceptional sites in case the federal government transfers ownership or management, and for these reasons, the Maryland Sierra Club respectively requests a favorable report on HB 1267. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the end of the table for our final witness on the panel.
Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, and members of the committee, Judy Fulton, President of the Maryland Native Plant Society. We strongly support House Bill 1267. This is critical legislation that can protect and preserve almost 20,000 acres of one of the Baltimore-Washington region's most endangered and wild areas at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center and the Patuxent Research Refuge. Although urban sprawl and other development has substantially encroached on the region, this vast area still encompasses thousands of acres of high-quality forest, wetlands, streams, and plant communities, many of which are highly rare or unique. The natural areas of these properties have been a focus of the Maryland Native Plant Society over many decades because they are so remarkable. These are not run-of-the-mill places. I live in Baltimore but have gone on field trips there 14 times in less than 10 years. Scientists with the Society has conducted extensive field studies. Hundreds of uncommon to highly rare plants and animals, wetlands, and natural communities have been discovered and documented for both park and the refuge. However, a simple count is dwarfed by the cumulative value of the irreplaceable natural landscapes of both properties. One amazing habitat is the Pine Barrens, which is not only important in Maryland, but is globally rare. Additionally, the survey found endangered and threatened plants that are at risk for disappearing from the state. Also, these wild areas host forest interior dwelling species, including birds that can't breed without uninterrupted wild areas. This bill provides a long overdue safeguard to prevent data centers, solar farms, industry, and real estate development from taking over these lands. Parks and the refuge's exceptional natural areas should be protected. The Maryland Native Plant Society urges a favorable report on House Bill 1267. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to Delegate Lehman and the entire panel. Questions for this particular panel? Okay, seeing none, that concludes Bill hearing on House Bill 1267. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go next to Delegate Spiegel here on behalf of Montgomery County Delegation, House Bill 1252. Welcome. We got a lot of District 17 action today. Okay, Delegate Spiegel.
Well, thank you and good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Delegate Ryan Spiegel on behalf of the Montgomery County House delegation for HB 1252, which is a local bill unanimously supported by the House delegation. This is a simple bill that asks the Department of Housing and Community Development to conduct a study and issue a report with recommendations to Montgomery County government agencies to address the crisis of housing affordability and housing supply. That's all it does. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions on this local bill for Delegate Spiegel from Montgomery County? Okay, seeing none, that concludes Bill here on 1252. Thank you, sir. Okay, let's next go to House Bill 1230. Well, actually, let's see, is Delegate Wims here? Okay, Delegate Wims, why don't you come up here? Which bill? Okay, Delegate Wims.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, okay, House Bill 1466. I've got Tim Warner, Anita Powell, Letitia Gasaway Paul, Carolyn Taylor, and Claudia Wilson Randall. Those are the 5 witnesses on your panel. I don't know if they're all here, but Delegate Wims, why don't you start on House Bill 1466?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Madam Vice Chair and the distinguished members of the committee. For the record, Delegate Greg Wims presenting House Bill 1466, Department of Housing and Community Development appraisal gap from historic redlining financial assistance program. Under the current law, a qualified property for the program must be located in both a low-income census tract and a sustainable community. This bill expands the definition by allowing the Department of Housing and Community Development to identify neighborhoods that have been historically redlined or have undergone urban renewal. Communities that experience urban renewal are still dealing with its long-term effects of disinvestment, suppressed property values, and barriers to wealth building. However, because these neighborhoods were changed or reclassified over time, they no longer fall within the low-income census tract designation. As a result, communities that still face real hardship can be excluded from programs that have been created to address appraisal gaps tied to historic inequities. HB 1466 recognized that a census tract label does not always capture the full situation of a certain area. A neighborhood may appear to have improved statistically, while families and developers are still confront the same market under devaluation and barriers to finance. The bill gives the Department of Housing and Community Development the flexibility to identify these neighborhoods more accurately. I would like to note and thank the City of Baltimore's mayor and the office and the Department of Housing and Community Development for supporting this legislation. And Mr. Chair, I want to say this is the first time I think in the history of the General Assembly, especially for those from Montgomery County, but I think statewide, that you have testifying before you descendants of freed slaves.
That's right.
My Storytown community, my granddad was a slave in 1840, born in 1840. I live on the property, the 1 acre that he left our family. Miss Taylor here, Emery Grove, same thing, her great-grandfather. Letitia from Scotland, some of you have heard of that. And then Mrs. Powell, who will talk from Lincoln Park. So I wanted to say that this is probably will never happen again, that we'll have the same kind of panel there. So with that, I respectfully ask for a favor report on House Bill 1466. And I'd like to start, if I could, this time with Ms. Carolyn Taylor from Historic Emery Grove. And then we'll go.
Okay, Ms. Taylor, and again, everybody at this point is going to be on the up to 2-minute clock, okay? So Ms. Taylor, you want to start? Greg, put the mic. Yeah. And by the way, and Delegate Lopez, you're going to be next. We had a little snafu as to when you came in, but you'll be next up, okay? Keep it in the D39
Greetings to the committee chair, Brian Feldman, and other esteemed members of the committee. My name is Carolyn Taylor, and I'm a member of the Heritage Emery Grove Community Development Corporation Board of Directors in Gaithersburg. I'm honored to offer my support to HB 1466, sponsored by Delegate Wims. There are many benefits to expanding the funding eligibility to include communities that were adversely affected by urban renewal. This funding has already provided meaningful assistance to many families, and we are hopeful that many more will benefit in the future. Emery Grove is such a community. In the early 1970s, urban renewal demolished the homes of this historic neighborhood, causing the loss of community bonds and generational wealth. Emery Grove was originally built by former enslaved people who proudly established and owned their homes while creating a self-reliant and thriving community. Over more than a century, they built churches, schools, businesses, and parks that served as gathering places for hundreds of people and hundreds of families. Unfortunately, when urban renewal displaced the residents of Emery Grove, land was seized by the government at compensation levels that made it impossible for many families to return to their rebuilt community or to preserve wealth for their children and grandchildren. As a result, families were forced apart and long-standing relationships rooted in the mid-1800s were disrupted. Even today, many descendants of those families continue to struggle to achieve home ownership, educate their children, and build a lasting legacy for future generations. Over the past 3 years, our CDC has been implementing a vision to restore the community by leading in the development of more than 500 units across the full spectrum of affordability. We believe this will create communities or opportunities for displaced families to begin developing intergenerational wealth by restoring the genuine sense of community that once existed. As a small developer, HB 1466 provides resources in this community that currently does not qualify for uplift funds because of misleading census tract data. These funds have been set aside for the development of affordable houses in neighborhoods like Emery Grove. We believe that, okay. Thank you so much.
That's fine. Okay, thank you for the intervention there, Delegate Wims. I appreciate it. Okay, let's move. We'll just go right down the table. Sir?
My name is Reverend Tim Warner, and good afternoon, Senator Feldman and Senator Kagan, the rest of the EEE Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to offer our unequivocal support for House Bill 1466. We believe that it is an essential resource for those communities and those of us committed to developing affordable housing in these disinvested neighborhoods. We also thank Delegate Wims for his forethought in proposing this legislation. I serve as president of the Heritage Emery Grove Community Development Corporation and as the director of community engagement for Habitat for Humanity in Metro Maryland. We're part of a much larger private-public partnership that is developing about 550 units of housing, affordable across the entire range of affordability, literally rebuilding the community once destroyed by urban renewal. As we considered the Uplift program administered by DHCD for this project, we were astounded and perplexed to find that the vast majority of the neighborhoods like Emery Grove, the very neighborhoods that the legislation and program are intended to help, did not qualify for the program. As we investigated further with DHCD, we found that the rubric for eligibility was based on census tract income data, and that income in the census tract and not necessarily the neighborhoods was too high to qualify. Unfortunately, census tract income data only tells some of the story and not all of it. House Bill 1466 would expand the definition of qualified property for DHCD's Uplift program to also include areas that have undergone urban renewal, thereby giving DHCD the ability to qualify communities that experienced urban renewal through criteria they identify and can standardize across the entire state. We believe both the intent and the language of this current policy are outstanding, and we also believe that this small change would benefit many families and many communities in the state, ensuring that communities that experienced urban renewal, another form of discrimination, and now existing communities that are not low income could qualify. We urge a favorable report from this committee, and we thank you for your time.
Amen.
Thank you, sir. Let's pass the mic down.
Good afternoon, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, and members of the Education, Energy, and Environmental Committee. My name is Anita Neal Powell. I am the president of the Lincoln Park Historical Foundation and co-author of African American Heritage and a Historical Map of Sites and Places in Montgomery County publication. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 1466 as amended. I also extend my appreciation to Delegate Williams for sponsoring this legislation. I am a lifelong resident of Montgomery County and currently live in Lincoln Park, the historically Black community in Rockville where I was raised. This lived experience has given me a deep understanding of the value that has long defined the community. Strong families, a commitment to education, and locally owned businesses during the segregated era and somewhat today, despite significant demographic changes over time. I would like to briefly highlight two examples of displacement and urban renewal in Rockville. Lincoln Park, annexed into the city of Rockville in 1949, was home to Lincoln Terrace, one of the county's earliest public housing development. Its demolition displaced residents who were led to believe that they could return. However, when the legacy at Lincoln Park development opened in 2007, many former residents were unable to do so due to affordability. Vice Chair Kagan, the second example concerns the 1959 urban renewal of what is now downtown Rockville and Rockville Town Center. At that time, the area was a thriving, historically Black community with housing, schools, and Black-owned businesses. While the area is economically vibrant today, the services and businesses provided by that community has largely disappeared, reflecting a broader pattern of displacement and urban renewal in Rockville. In closing, I respectfully urge the committee favorable report of HB 1466 as amended, which expands existing funding to support affordable home ownership opportunities for Montgomery County and Maryland residents. Thank you for your time and consideration. Good afternoon.
Okay, we'll go to the end of the panel. Okay, Ms. Powell.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Senate Committee. My name is Letitia Gasway Paul, and I am a community advocate and steward of this.
I had the wrong name. I apologize.
Oh.
My apologies.
Chair, you messed me up. See,
Time back.
I am a community advocate and steward of the historic Scotland community in Montgomery County. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on my birthday in strong support of HB 1466, and thank you, Delegate Williams, for your leadership. Scotland is one of the oldest historical Black communities in Montgomery County, founded by formerly enslaved people shortly after emancipation. Land that represents generational wealth, stability, ownership, and opportunity to build wealth. But the system surrounding housing and development not always protected communities like ours. Redlining, disinvestment, and urban renewal shaped where investment flowed and where it did not. And today we are still living with that impact. One of the largest and biggest barriers we face now is the appraisal gap. The difference between what it costs to build or restore a home and what is the home is worth in historical disinvested communities. That gap discourages investment, limits development, and makes it harder for families to access home ownership, one of the most important pathways to generational wealth. Scotland is in Potomac, and we are surrounded by growth and rising property values, yet many longtime residents are living in aging gaps in homes that need investment, while the next generation struggles to find a way to stay in the community. Programs like Uplift were designed to address this, but current eligibility rules did not always capture communities like ours. HB 1466 helps with that. By expanding eligibility, it includes communities impacted by redlining and urban renewal. It ensures that investment reaches the neighborhoods it was intended to support. It allows the state to take a more accurate and equitable approach. For Scotland, this is about preservation and possibility. It is about making sure families built this community are not left out of its future. Our history is still here, our people are still here, and our future deserves to be here too. I respectfully ask for a favorable report on House Bill 1466. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you. Senator Washington.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate, for bringing this bill, and also thank you so much for being here. Oh.
Did I miss somebody?
You have one more.
Oh, we have one other, my apologies again. Okay, who else? Who did I miss? Okay, yeah. Claudia Wilson Randall.
I am
Okay.
Claudia
Yes,
Wilson Randall,
you are Claudia
indeed,
Wilson.
indeed.
Okay, let's get you in, and then we'll go to Senator Washington.
Sure. Good afternoon, Chair Feldman and members of the Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee. My name is Claudia Wilson Randall, and I'm the Executive Director of the Community Development Network of Maryland. I don't have anything incredible to add to the testimony that has preceded mine on in strong support of House Bill 1466, but I want to thank all of you for recognizing the need for this legislation. This panel has really focused on Montgomery County, but there are communities like this throughout the state of Maryland. Annapolis has them, Bowie, Cross Keys in Baltimore was once a thriving Black community. When urban renewal skillfully removed it from the map. And now Cross Keys is part of the, in Baltimore City, one of the wealthiest areas of the city. So I just want to, to summarize, we can't go back, but we must go forward. And we must use the tools like the Uplift program to figure out strategies that move us forward and to create specific communities and community wealth and other investments that help move communities forward, help connect people back to the communities that they're from, and move us to a future that's with positive possibility for all.
Yes.
It is with that, I ask for your strong support of House Bill 1466. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions? Senator Washington.
Thank you. Thank you, again, what I said before. Thank you. And thank you for mentioning Annapolis. I live on Pinckney Street, which was a historic African-American community. Clay and West, starting by Four Rivers Heritage area. And I was just looking in Montgomery County, I guess you're talking about Boyd's and Sandy Spring and Hawkins Lane and all of those places. I wonder, for those of you doing the research, I wonder if the African-American survey districts that were created as a part of the plannings for creating town centers, would that, I mean, I see the definition that you have in this bill, but could you think about, would those, because those are clearly state action, those are clearly actions, clearly defined communities, and there were surveys that were taken. Would that, just off the head, do you think those districts would fit?
So I haven't really drilled down to every single one of those communities, but I would say some actually, some of those communities.
Overlap.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Some of them get to it, others don't.
Yeah, yeah, just as a step.
I don't.
Sponsor, I don't know if you.
I don't know the answer to that, but we can get back to you.
Okay.
So I'll get back to you on that one.
All right, thank you so much.
Any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 1466. And we're going to next move to Delegate Lopez on House Bill 691. Leslie, why don't you come on up? Lisa May, Angelica Bailey-Pari from MML, and Lori Graff has signed up favor with amendments. Can I just bring all those witnesses up and we'll have one panel? Okay, Delegate Lopez, we're on House Bill 691.
Thank you, lady.
Is Ms. Graff, she's not here? Okay. Okay, Delegate Lopez, why don't you start?
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Leslie Lopez, representing District 39, here to present HB 691, Permitting Efficiency for Housing Development Projects, a bill that has no fiscal note and comes as the result of many conversations with municipal officials, particularly those in Gaithersburg and Rockville. When we talk about the housing crisis, we often focus on what gets built and where it gets built. And that's important. Across Maryland, communities have stepped up to modernize their zoning codes and remove outdated barriers to housing production. But zoning reform alone does not produce housing. It simply makes housing possible. What we're seeing now is a new bottleneck, permitting, especially at the state level. And that is what this bill takes on, that red tape and those bottlenecks. This is done in 3 ways in this bill. Number 1, it allows for concurrent filing. 2, it allows for reprioritization of projects. And 3, it ends duplication by expanding the delegation of authority. A single housing development may require approvals not just from a city or a county, but from agencies like the Maryland Department of Environment, the Maryland State Highway Administration, or the Maryland Department of Transportation. Each has its own timelines, procedures, and priorities. Too often, these reviews happen sequentially rather than concurrently. That means a project waits for one approval before the next, and the result of these cumulative delays means rising financing costs and ultimately higher rents and home prices for Maryland's families. HB 691 addresses that by requiring processes that allow for concurrent filing and review whenever feasible, not to cut corners, but to cut unnecessary waiting times. This bill also recognizes that not all permits are created equal in urgency. Right now, projects are generally reviewed in the order that they are received. But projects aligned with state housing goals should not sit in the same queue as lower priority applications. If housing is a priority in our policy, it should also be a priority in our process. Finally, HB 691 expands delegation authority and the possibility for MOUs. The Maryland Department of the Environment can already delegate certain permitting tasks. Agencies like SHA and MDOT cannot. That means that even when our local governments have the expertise and capacity and are closer to the project, they're legally barred from helping. The result is duplication and delay. This legislation does not weaken standards, it strengthens coordination. It doesn't bypass review, it makes review smarter, faster, and better aligned with Maryland's stated goals. If we are serious about addressing the housing crisis, we have to look not just at what we aim to build and allow to build, but how we allow it to move forward. HB 691 is about making sure our processes reflect our priorities. I thank you and urge a favorable report.
Get Lopez, Ms. Angelica Bailey-Thupari, you're up next. And then we'll go to Lisa next.
There we go.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you, Madam
here.
Vice Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. Angelica Bailey-Thupari for the Maryland Municipal League, with great thanks to the sponsor for bringing this bill forward. We've been saying all session and for many years that local governments want to be a part of the solution. We think this bill is a good step in that direction. It is pragmatic, it is implementable, it is enabling, and so again, with thanks to the sponsor, we would urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Lisa May with Maryland Realtors here in support. Really, this boils down to permitting and regulations are necessary, but they don't have to be painful. And that is what this bill is trying to address. But more important, I think this committee knows very, very well that it is rare when you find local government representatives and industry representatives at the same table in support of the same bill. And that might be the best argument that I could make in favor of this legislation. So with that, I would urge your favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. May. Colleagues, we do have one witness who's favorable with amendments, so if there are any questions for sponsor Delegate Lopez or the two advocates. Seeing none, let's bring up Lori Graff from the Maryland Building Industry Association. Is she here? Okay, she is not. If that's the case, then that means that that completes the hearing on House Bill 691. Thank you, Delegate. Next up, Delegate Mireku North. Welcome back to EEE. You've got two bills for the delegation, am I right?
Actually, there's a misunderstanding. I have 1185. Delegate Harrison will be doing 1230.
Okay.
Thank you.
1185 is a Prince George's County delegation and Montgomery related to the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission Personnel Management Appeals of Disciplinary Suspensions. And Christian Goebel with AFSCME. Hello, welcome. Okay, and Valerie Farrar. Delegate, you may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and distinguished members of the Education, Energy, and Environment Committee. I'm Delegate Bernice Mireku North from District 14, offering testimony on House Bill 1185. As amended, House Bill 1185, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission Personnel Management Appeal of Disciplinary Suspensions, simply enables an employee of WSSC to appeal a suspension issued by management to the Office of Administrative Hearings. Under current law, if you are a WSSC employee suspended, there is no option to appeal. So this bill promotes due process for employees by ensuring they have access to an impartial forum for review of suspension issued by management, and the provisions of the bill that were amended out of legislation were actually addressed by the union and WSSC in collective bargaining negotiations. Both Montgomery County, Prince George's County delegations passed it out unanimously. So I'm asking for your favorable report on House Bill 1185. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, Vice Chair Kagan, members of the committee. My name is Christian Goebel. I serve as Legislative and Political Coordinator with AFSCME Maryland Council 3. Our council represents about 55,000 public service workers across the state of Maryland, and we're proud to represent workers at WSSC through AFSCME Local 2898. Delegate Mireku North described what this bill does as amended. We just wanted to thank the delegate and the Prince George's and Montgomery County delegations for supporting this legislation. Happy to answer any questions when we urge a favorable report on HB 1185. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Kagan and members of the committee. My name is Valerie Farrar, and I'm the Chief Human Resources Officer at WSSC Water. I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 1185. On behalf of WSSC Water, I would like to express our appreciation to Delegate Mireku North for her work on this legislation. I want to begin by recognizing our WSSC Water employees who work around the clock to deliver the highest level of service in pursuit of our mission to provide safe, reliable, and sustainable water and wastewater services to the 1.9 million residents we serve in Montgomery and Prince George's counties. This bill as amended, would expand the disciplinary appeal rights of WSSC Water employees. Our employees are members of a merit system and presently enjoy the right to appeal terminations to the Office of Administrative Hearings. This bill would expand that right to include disciplinary suspensions. That means that an employee who suffers a loss of income due to a disciplinary suspension would have the right to challenge that action in a full contested case proceeding. We fully support the bill and the expansion of these critical due process rights for our valued employees. We respectfully request your favorable report on House Bill 1185, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you all for your testimony. Colleagues, do you have any questions about this bill, bi-county bill that got unanimous support from the delegations? Seeing none, thank you, Delegate Mareka North. Appreciate it. That completes the hearing on House Bill 1185. I see Delegate Miller is with us. Or do you say, I'm sorry, Andrea, did you want to go?
Yes, she's going to sit in here. I think it'll be fast.
Okay, all right. Delegate joining you is Keon Hartley, who I think is virtual, and in person, Christy Bickham. There we go. All right. Delegate, welcome to EEE.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, members of the Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee. I'm Delegate Andrea Harrison, here to present HB 1230, which is Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission procurement alterations. HB 1230 strengthens and modernizes the way the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission engages with local businesses, supports workforce development, and ensures that public dollars generate public benefits. This bill will update the structure of the office responsible for WSSC's business participation programs. It removes an outdated title and directs the commission to adopt a name that better reflects its expanded mission. But more importantly, it strengthens that office's responsibilities, ensuring that vendor development, compliance monitoring, and economic participation are not afterthoughts, but core functions of WSSC's procurement and strategy. The bill also modernizes and clarifies the definitions of the businesses we aim to support. It recognizes local businesses, small businesses, Maryland-based businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and disabled veteran-owned businesses. These definitions matter. They determine who can participate, who can compete, and who can grow with WSSC contracting opportunities. With these definitions in place, the bill then overhauls the business participation program. It expands eligibility, allowing WSSC to create sheltered markets, offer preferences, and accept vendor registrations from other jurisdictions or through self-certification. These are practical, flexible tools that help level the playing field for smaller and local firms that may not have the resources to navigate multiple certification systems. The bill also requires WSSC to adopt clear eligibility criteria, establish graduation standards for businesses that have grown beyond the need for the program benefits, and conduct annual reviews to ensure the program is working as intended. It is accountability built into the statute. House Bill 1230 goes further by authorizing WSSC to adopt regulations that promote local hiring, skills training, and apprenticeship participation. These provisions strengthen the connection between public contracting and workforce development, ensuring that our investments support not only local businesses, but also local workers. Let me be clear. This bill does not alter or interfere with the Minority Business Enterprise Program. That program remains intact and untouched. HB 1230 allows for thoughtful, balanced update to WSSC's procurement framework. It supports local economic growth, expands opportunity, and ensures that our contracting dollars work harder for the communities that we serve. I respectfully urge a favorable vote on House Bill 1230. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chair Feldman and Vice Chair Kagan and committee members. My name is Christy Bickham, Deputy General Manager for External Affairs at WSSC Water, and I appreciate the opportunity to present House Bill 1230. Every day, WSSC Water delivers safe, reliable water and wastewater services to nearly 2 million residents across Prince George's and Montgomery counties. But our work goes beyond infrastructure. It also drives economic opportunity. Over the next 6 years, WSSC Water will invest $4.8 billion in infrastructure, creating opportunities across construction, engineering, technology, equipment, and professional services. And we are intentional about ensuring that local, small, diverse, and underserved businesses have a clear opportunity to compete for that work. House Bill 1230 builds on that commitment by making the following targeted administrative updates to modernize our procurement statute and strengthen participation. First, it expands opportunities for small local businesses and Maryland businesses, introducing tiered preferences that prioritize small and local firms while also creating pathways for businesses based in our service area and across Maryland. Second, it promotes local hiring and workforce development, sponsoring local hiring, apprenticeships, skills training, and stronger connections between infrastructure investment and local jobs. Third, it updates vendor registrations, cutting red tape by allowing recognition of certifications from other public agencies and reducing duplicative paperwork, making it easier for qualified businesses to compete. Fourth, it provides opportunities for veteran and disabled veteran-owned businesses to honor our veteran entrepreneurs. Fifth, it provides administrative flexibility, providing the authority to rename the office if necessary through a transparent public process to ensure the title and function remains legally durable. And finally, modernizes business participation programs. For these reasons, we respectfully request a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bickham. And virtually?
My colleague, Keon Harley,
Yeah.
is available if you have questions.
Questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harley. Do we have any questions for Delegate Harrison, Ms. Bickham, or Mr. Harley on this WSSC bill? Seeing none, that completes the hearing on House Bill 1230. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you.
Take care. And next up, we're going to have Delegate April Miller. And that bill is House Bill 972. Okay. Maryland Fair and Agricultural Education Promise Fund establishment, named for our late colleague Charles Otto. And looks like you've got some excellent young witnesses with you, Delegate. So why don't you kick us off, and then I'm happy to call on the young people here from FFA. Welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Feldman, Madam Vice Chair Kagan, and members of the committee. For the record, I am Delegate April Miller, representing District 4 in Frederick County. I am here to present the amended House Bill 972. This legislation began as a grassroots effort introduced at the request of the Middletown High School FFA students who recognized a need for stable, long-term support for agricultural education and leadership development. However, as it moved through the House, it evolved into a truly beautiful bipartisan effort. With the dedicated help of the entire Environment and Transportation Committee, this bill has been transformed into a living legacy honoring one of our own, the late Delegate Charles Otto. We lost a giant on the Eastern Shore and a champion of the Maryland farmer when Delegate Charles Otto passed away this past October. He didn't just represent agriculture, he lived it. He was a man of the soil, knew the value of hard work, a poultry expert, and a devoted advocate for our rural way of life. There is no more fitting way to honor his legacy than by securing the promise of agricultural education for the next generation of Marylanders. House Bill 972 establishes the Charles J. Otto Agricultural Education Promise Act, a dedicated non-lapsing fund administered by the Comptroller. In the past, funding for our agricultural education programs and fairs was tied to the Horse Racing Special Fund, and for the fairs, it still is. As the landscape of that industry has shifted, it became clear that we needed a more stable, predictable promise of funding. There has also been a change in how school budgets are calculated in the blueprint, leaving less funding for groups like FFA. House Bill 972 remedies this. Delegate Otto knew that if you don't plant the seed, you don't get the harvest. Right now, the average age of a Maryland farmer is nearly 60 years old. If we want to ensure food security for our state, innovation in agriculture and entrepreneurship, and maintain the $16 billion economic impact of Maryland agriculture, we must engage our youth. By providing stable funding for both FFA and MAIT, this bill ensures that urban and rural students alike can access hands-on STEM education through agriculture, have leadership development continued through programs that teach students public speaking, business management, and environmental stewardship, and have career pipelines that remain open for the next generation of veterinarians, agronomists, and farm owners and entrepreneurs. And when we renamed the Agricultural Education Promise Act, we did so because of Charles Otto's word was his bond. Many of you served with him and know how he was always kind, quick to smile, laugh, or joke. He made our chamber a better place. He promised his constituents that he would always look out for the future of the shore and the future of farming. By passing House Bill 972, this body is keeping that promise and ensuring that educational programs that he supported will have the resources they need to thrive long after we have all finished our service in these chambers. The bill passed the House with an overwhelming bipartisan support of 137-1. It is funding a living legacy that protects our heritage by investing in our future. And by naming it the Delegate Charles Otto Agricultural Education Promise Act, we are ensuring the values that he championed, the hard work, stewardship of the land, and rural heritage are preserved for the next generation. And now, speaking of the next generation, I would like to turn this over with the chair's permission to the Middletown High School FFA students and state leadership who made all of this possible.
Delegate Miller, thank you for your testimony. I'm going to read the names, and then you can go in that order or whatever order pleases you. Let me just say, because this bill passed 137-1, and because we still have a lot of work to do on the energy bill, you each will have up to 2 minutes, but me too or something kind of brief would be appreciated. And on the other hand, I love hearing young women have the opportunity to testify. So just think about how you want to do that, but less can be more. So let's see, Suzanne Richards, just raise your hand. Who's Suzanne? Okay, all right. Aubrey Michaels, Addison Koss, Delaney Ogg, LFL, and you, ma'am, what's your name?
Haley Pleasance.
Haley Pleasance. I am not seeing you on this list, but we'd be happy to hear your testimony as well.
Thank you.
So can we start here and just go down the line? Is that all right? Or do you want to go in a particular order? Let's get started. All right, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Hello, my name is Delaney Ogg. I am in favor of this bill. It's hard for me to separate FFA from the classroom because FFA is not just one thing. It's not just a club or just an organization. It's an intracurricular experience that makes what I learn in the classroom come to life, such as field trips and applying what I've learned in the classroom to the real world. Last year, I was given the opportunity to go on a field trip to Transova, where I learned about how cattle genetics can be modified to meet the farmer's needs. Through agriculture education, I have received my large animal veterinary science certification. I would not be able to apply all that I've learned from the certification if I did not have an SAE where I can get hands-on experience working with livestock. My high school experience would not have been the same without all of the skills and experiences I have learned through FFA. FFA has helped me further my education as well as my teamwork and leadership skills. Through FFA, I have participated in many contests and events that have taught me valuable life skills. I hope that many more students after me will be able to take agriculture classes and have the same great experience I have. However, in order for that to happen, we need a consistent source of funding for our programs. When I was a freshman in high school, the cost to attend the Maryland FFA State Convention was around $220. Due to reduced funding and rising inflation, costs have gone up 200%. I feel that these rising costs may deter students, preventing them from getting the full FFA experience. I hope you will consider funding our program as it teaches kids to be leaders, how to work together, and many great life skills that open up a world of opportunities. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak today. My name is Aubrey Michaels, and I'm a proud member of Maryland FFA. I'm here to share how critical the Maryland FFA Association is to students like me and why passing this bill to restore funding for Maryland FFA is essential to our future. Maryland FFA is more than just an organization. It's a place where students learn leadership skills and develop skills to prepare for careers in agriculture, science, and technology. Through hands-on projects, competitive events, and leadership conferences, FFA inspires students to excel, serve our community, and pursue higher education and careers in agriculture. However, changes in recent years, particularly revisions to the Maryland Blueprint and the elimination of lab fees, have severely hindered our ability to fund meaningful agricultural education. When lab fees were removed from school budgets, our programs lost a critical source of support for student projects. These lab fees help students purchase materials, supplies, animals, and equipment for class projects in our SAEs, or supervise agricultural experiences that furthered our education. Without those funds, students must now personally pay for their projects that used to be supported by school budgets, and chapters are forced to absorb additional costs or pass them directly to members. This issue has hit Maryland FFA especially hard. The decline to Maryland FFA state funding has caused costs for essential opportunities to rise sharply. This is not just a bad organization. This is the future of Maryland's workforce. Cutting funding for FFA detracts from our ability to compete, learn, and grow. That's why this bill matters. Restoring funding for Maryland FFA will ensure students from all economic backgrounds can participate in FFA events and programs, reduce out-of-pocket costs for member projects and competition fees, and strengthen agricultural education across the state. I respectfully urge you to support this bill and restore the funding that Maryland FFA so desperately needs. Investing in FFA is investing in Maryland's youth, our communities, and our future economic success. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Addison Case, and this is Ella Fell, and we are members of Maryland FFA. Thank you for the time to hear our support for the bill. FFA and agriculture classes have given me and many other students the opportunity to learn about agriculture. While I've lived on a farm my whole life, I've always viewed agriculture as just farming and ranching. It wasn't until my freshman year of high school when I took my first ag class that I learned how much more there was to agriculture. It isn't just farming. It's a complex industry that feeds the world, and it's important that every student gets the opportunity to learn about the industry that puts food on their table and how they don't have to be a farmer to become involved in agriculture.
Today, many people are disconnected from where their food comes from. It's easy to shop at the grocery store without thinking about the farmer, science, and hard work behind every meal. But agriculture doesn't just happen. It requires education, dedication, and strong support systems. I did not grow up on a farm, but through Maryland FFA and agriculture education, I discovered a passion that changed my life and solidified my career goals to stay in the ag industry. Through FFA, I built connections with local farms where I now work with and show dairy cattle, horses, goats, and sheep. I haven't just studied agriculture, I've experienced it firsthand.
FFA has given me many life skills that I will carry with me throughout my life, such as public speaking, responsibility, and leadership skills. Supporting this bill means investing in students like me. Funding programs like Maryland FFA and the Maryland Ag Education Foundation creates opportunities for leadership, career readiness, and hands-on learning. These programs prepare the next generations of farmers, veterinarians, engineers, teachers, advocates, and endless more.
Because of these programs, I also had the honor of serving as the Maryland Dairy Princess, where I visited schools, fairs, and community events to educate families about where their milk comes from and to share the stories of the farmers behind it. Those conversations showed me how powerful agriculture education truly is.
Thank you. Thank you all. Suzanne Richards, you're signed up. We have one more slot, so it can be you or the other young FFA person. Do you want to cede your time, or do you want to take your time?
I can cede to Haley.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And that will be our concluding witness on this bill.
Good afternoon, Chairman Feldman and members of the committee. My name is Haley Pleasance. I grew up on my family's farm in Frederick County and was part of the Linganore FFA chapter. I currently serve as the Maryland FFA State President. This year, I have seen all aspects of the Maryland FFA Association and how it impacts the 2,800 members who call FFA home and rely on this organization for agricultural education and leadership development. This bill would provide essential funding in the amount of $100,000 to our association. This funding will be used to cover state leadership and career events. Each year, we host our Day in Annapolis, where FFA members meet with legislators, see how policy works, while also advocating for ag education. We also hold regional leadership conferences where we travel to each part of Maryland to lead workshops on topics not always learned in the classroom. This year, we reached nearly 1,000 students. Another opportunity we provide is career and leadership development events, where students learn skills and apply their knowledge in competitions. These experiences give them the confidence to pursue their future paths and develop essential personal skills. Some competitions we host include veterinary science, nursery and landscape, and prepared public speaking. One competition that impacted my career interests was land judging and home site evaluation, where students learn about soil health as well as determine appropriate land use. Through my experience in this competition, I was selected for an internship with the Maryland Department of Agriculture and the Nutrient Management Program. In this role, I support farmers in improving soil health while also helping to protect our Chesapeake Bay. This opportunity would not have been possible without the rigorous courses offered and the competitions that developed my public speaking and interviewing skills. The funding of House Bill 972 would allow us to continue providing these opportunities for students across the state. I strongly believe in the future of agriculture and the impact FFA has on each student in Maryland. I ask for your support of this bill in honor of Charles J. Otto, a past state FFA officer, and for the future success of students in their careers and personal development. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you all. You guys all did a great job. So glad to have you here. Senator Gallion has a question for you.
Thank you. Thank you for all being here today. This is a great honor for Delegate Otto. I know in my district, North Hartford High Schools in my district has a great ag magnet program there, a very active FFA. So thank you for all coming down. Just one thing, Delegate, if you could just, I know you brought it briefly in your testimony, but these unclaimed bets, that funded a lot of different ag programs, and now that there's more online, you're losing a lot of funding that were in those unclaimed bets. So can you just expand on that just a little bit, how that's affected the funding for this just super important ag education?
Yes, that has been the issue of the Promise Fund. It has not reached its full potential because of the new way unclaimed bets are done, and with online, you don't really have a lot of them. So what the bill does is it leaves actually more funding for that because it takes the $75,000 that would normally be going to MAIF, and it's leaving more funding for the fairs into that fund. So it wouldn't, but it is an overall decreasing fund, which is why we felt this bill was really important. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Delegate Miller, I first personally want to thank you and go on the record that you using your expertise and knowledge of education and to focus in this area has made this bill go forward. So I want to first thank you for your leadership. I want to thank each one of the FFA members for being here in person. Says it all. And I want to say publicly that this bill, this Maryland Fair and Agricultural Education Promise Act, is the most fitting way to honor our friend, Delegate Charles Otto. Many of you know that we shared the same district. The past 2 weekends, I have been with his family, different events back home in Somerset County where he has been honored. Nowhere was it more important when I was able to share at the Somerset County Farm Bureau dinner when you had just moved forward with the naming of this bill, and to share with his family and his constituents that his legacy indeed will live on, because this is exactly what we need to do for the future. And all I'll ask for you, Delegate Miller, to follow up is, I want to make sure that, obviously, want to see a focus right on the shore where Delegate Otto spent his life as a farmer, but then to make sure that we really are going across the state and building it. So I offer to work with you on that, and if you have specific ideas, I would like to hear those and work with you.
Absolutely. I've got no short of ideas, Senator.
So
absolutely.
Thank you all.
So I think we've got some other FFA members and leaders in the audience. Would you all just stand up so we can appreciate you for being here as well? All right. Well, thank you to the parents for your guidance and support of these young leaders, and we're expecting great things from all of you. Really glad to have you here in our committee and in Annapolis. Delegate Miller, that completes the hearing on your bill, House Bill 972. Thank you all.
Thank
Take
you all
care.
very much.
Back to the chair.
And is anybody here from the Critical Area Commission? Nick Kelly, Lisa Horger, Eric Fisher, from the Chesapeake Atlantic Coastal Bays Critical Area Commission. And each of you will be on the up to 2-minute clock. Okay, why don't you start?
Thank you, Chair Feldman and Vice Chair Kagan and members of this committee. For the record, my name is Lisa Herger, and I am the Legislative and Regulatory Manager for the Critical Area Commission. I'm here to testify in support of House Bill 247, which is the Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays Critical Area Protection Program Variances and Alterations. You all have the report in front of you, and I will just briefly explain what the bill does, and I'm going to turn it over to Chair Fisher. The bill has to do with variances, which I'm sure most of you are aware of in the context of regular zoning. But in the critical area, which is that 1,000-foot ribbon around the Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries, there are different standards that a property owner has to meet outside of the regular zoning requirements. So critical area variances focus on not houses specifically, but typically accessory structures. And those things are like decks or pools or garages, things that people have ancillary to their primary dwelling. So I wanted to kind of just focus you on that issue and also kind of give a little history, which is many of you know the critical area law has been in effect for 42 years, I think. The regulations that control variances were actually promulgated in 1986. So we have 40 years of experience of reviewing variances. This body, the General Assembly, has through the years also made amendments to the variance requirements in the law, and also the Maryland court system, which we'll hear in a moment, has done so as well. So what has happened is the way that the variances are reviewed is by each individual local government. We have 16 counties, Baltimore City, 46 individual municipalities. Variances are handled through local governments, through their zoning codes. Each one of them has either a planning director that makes the decisions on these variances, or they have a board of appeals. Some have hearing officers. So that many people around the state are using the variance standards to make these decisions. What we found in our experience through those years in which the General Assembly and the courts is that there's a lot of inconsistency with its application. It costs people extra money when these things are appealed, as you can imagine. So the purpose of this bill is simply to not change the procedures or what an applicant is required to do when they apply for a variance, but to insert into the law updated case law. So that's what you see in the bill. The other thing about the bill is it was amended in the House with the cooperation of MACO, and that amendment is in two places. One's on page 2, the other is, I think, on page 3. And what it says on line 17 is this subparagraph does not apply to a new additional or accessory dwelling unit. The reason for that clarification was that MACO and our local government partners wanted to make sure that these variance standards weren't being applied to dwelling units, which they are not. As I had stated earlier, they're simply for accessory uses. So I wanted to make that clear. And I am going to turn over my time to Chair Fisher at this point.
Okay, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Chair Feldman, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Someday we are going to make variances fun. We're not getting there with this bill, but we are hoping to make the variance process more predictable, efficient, and equitable for everyone involved, local government, state government, and applicants. Consistency is the key to that. And this body recognized that. You have directed consistency across critical area rules and procedures. And as Ms. Herger said, variances are an area where we do struggle across the state with consistency. We have 64 different local jurisdictions. The challenge is that inconsistent decisions introduce uncertainty in the development process. They create inequities between applicants and local jurisdictions, and they risk harm to our waterways. What we can do is gather the answers that we have from case law, put them in one place in the statute, to help people understand what the expectations are and arrive at more consistent decision-making that is protective of the environment and people's time, energy, and resources. I would simply like to address a couple of concerns that came up during the House side of this process. One related to a potential impact on commercial redevelopment. I think the specific concern related to piers and boathouses, this bill does not affect those issues. Those are water-dependent uses and go through a separate process, so they would not count against a commercial redeveloper when seeking a variance. And lastly, a concern about moving to on-the-record reviews. And we would simply say that the vast majority of counties already do this, so the bill simply affirms that process. It works well. In the few counties where we don't do that, what it means is we start entirely over with an entirely new advertising, public hearing, deliberative process. So we think these are positive changes, and we would appreciate the committee's consideration of this bill. Mr. Kelly, simply here for questions.
Okay. Okay, any questions for our witnesses here on House Bill 247? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 247, which brings us to our final bill, House Bill 254. And I've got, let's see, Matt Pluta here, Mr. Pluta, Marie-Pierre Delau, Dr. Marie-Pierre Delau, and Lydia McPherson from DNR. And so those are our witnesses, and who wants to lead off?
Get started for you.
Okay, welcome back.
Thank you so
can
much.
Start.
Thank you, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Lydia McPherson, and I'm the Legislative Director here at the Department of Natural Resources. I'm here today to present HB 254, which is a comprehensive bill designed to enhance the department's role when it comes to promoting resilience here in the state. Local governments shoulder much of the burden when it comes to planning for and adapting to the impacts of climate change. And as the severity of these impacts increase, local governments will look to the state when it comes to modifying their operation and seeking to innovate solutions to new problems. This bill takes several steps to improve program efficiency, strengthen partnerships, and advance nature-based resilience programs within the department. It shifts priorities to enhance DNR's ability to effectively deliver on project outcomes while requiring no additional resources. More specifically, the bill does several things. It codifies resilience through restoration, which has been an incredibly successful pilot program since originally being established back in 2018, and through leveraging additional federal resources. It has far exceeded its original goal of 15 projects, and I believe to date, the program itself has supported over the design and construction of over 40 projects across the state. The bill also requires the department to identify climate vulnerabilities on state lands and model nature-based solutions that can be applied on a broader statewide scale. It creates pathways for equitable community participation in state-funded projects. It lowers barriers to implementing living shoreline solutions. And finally, it supports local planning efforts by integrating climate data and tools and resources into a more streamlined guidance and training for localities to take advantage of. To summarize, very simply put, this bill helps DNR become a more effective partner when it comes to implementing climate resilience, and we respectfully ask for a favorable report.
Okay, thank you. Who's next?
Go ahead.
Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, and members of the committee. My name is Dr. Marie-Pierre Delisle, and I'm an assistant professor of ocean engineering at the U.S. Naval Academy. My expertise is broadly focused on sea level rise, the effect of sea level rise on coastal flooding, and I'm currently advising a group of midshipmen on capstone projects focused on coastal resilience design at Holly Beach Farm in partnership with DNR. Holly Beach Farm is a natural protective feature for the broader Annapolis region. Because of its position in the Chesapeake Bay, the peninsula absorbs and redirects wave energy before it reaches critical infrastructure behind it, including the U.S. Naval Academy, Naval Support Activity Annapolis, neighborhoods, and transportation corridors like Route 50. However, Holly Beach Farm has experienced significant erosion, and as sea levels rise, its protective function will diminish without strategic intervention. The two projects we're working on at Holly Beach Farm focus on strengthening resilience using a variety of solutions, such as breakwaters and living shorelines. These solutions are designed to attenuate wave energy, reduce shoreline retreat, and enhance habitat at Holly Beach Farm to sustain the peninsula's long-term protective capacity in the face of sea level rise. These projects reflect a resilience through restoration approach through the planning and design of nature-based solutions that reduce vulnerability, protect public assets, and provide regional risk reduction benefits. They're being designed with adaptive management in mind, so performance can be monitored and adjusted over time to remain effective under changing conditions. In addition to the regional environmental and resilience benefits, these projects directly benefit midshipmen by providing hands-on experience in planning, modeling, and evaluating nature-based solutions. Through this partnership with DNR, our midshipmen are not only applying classroom knowledge to real-world challenges, but are learning to collaborate with stakeholders and see how their work can have a tangible impact on both natural and built environments in their community. With this, I kindly request a favorable vote.
Okay, Mr. Platt, Pluto?
Yes, Chair Feldman and Vice Chair Kagan, thank you for having me this afternoon. My name is Matt Pluta. I'm your Chop Tank River Keeper with Shore Rivers on Maryland's Eastern Shore. I want to first commend DNR for bringing this bill, and I want to just quickly touch on two parts of this bill that help to address common barriers that help to successfully integrate community-centered restoration is really what part of this bill that we're talking about. And so first is the requirement for meaningful community participation in restoration projects. So at Shore Rivers, we've implemented over 300 restoration projects on the shore. Community participation is not important, but it's essential in those projects. We never want to find ourselves in a position where we went forward with a project only to find out that it wasn't in the best interest of the community. And we've learned that over time. As a member of Envision the Chop Tank, who is one of the recipients of the whole watershed projects that DNR authorizes, we started this community ambassador program years ago, realizing that we need the community at the table to help make sure our projects are meeting their needs. And it's not so much to think about today as people's time is free, because it's not. Especially when we're dealing with underserved and overburdened communities, we need to recognize the time that they're committing to put into participating in community projects like this, and then pay them for that. And so through this bill that would authorize compensation for community members, we think that's exactly the forward-thinking approach for restoration moving ahead. And then lastly, addressing real quick the living shoreline loan there. The number one question we get as river keepers from homeowners and landowners around the shore is how can we fix our shoreline? We first talk about the loan program that's available, and then usually that's where the conversation ends. And so having this bill open up the loan program for potential forgiveness will go a long way in helping our waterfront landowners, towns, and others with erosion issues address those problems in a sustainable way. So for that, we urge a favorable report.
Okay, questions? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 254, and that concludes our bill hearings for today. Folks, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and we're going to come back here at 3 o'clock, and we're going to try to finish up our work on energy. And then we have a couple of consent calendars you might want to just jam out, which should be very easy. There are exact cross files, et cetera. But come back here at 3 o'clock. We're going to take up the energy bill, and I think we got a path forward on that, okay? 3 o'clock.